And so you just kind of look because you're mid smile because you didn't expect. I don't know how you didn't expect.
The WNBA media gatekeepers are at it again. Chiney Ogwumike thought she could throw shade at the Indiana Fever and their fan base during her podcast, but veteran Fever star Kelsey Mitchell wasn't having any of it. When asked about the explosion of women's basketball, Mitchell immediately credited Caitlin Clark for creating the wave, and Chiney's face told the whole story. That half-smile turned death stare moment is absolutely priceless, and perfectly captures the old guard's refusal to acknowledge what everyone else can plainly see. All right, let's break down this absolutely glorious moment of unfiltered basketball truth that has the WNBA establishment clutching their pearls. If you haven't seen the clip yet, you're in for a treat. It's the perfect encapsulation of the current divide between reality and the narrative some people are desperately trying to push.
And one thing that I really thought was a problem was it seemed like she was trying to bait Kelsey Mitchell into saying something bad about Fever fans.
The clip comes from Chiney Ogwumike's podcast, Sweet Ballers, during an episode titled Angel Reese, Chiney Ogwumike, and others discuss the future of women's sports. Chiney was hosting a panel that included Kelsey Mitchell of the Indiana Fever, Nenika Ogwumike, Chiney's sister, who plays for Seattle, and Dijonai Carrington of the New York Liberty.
That face right there is hilarious to me because it's that half and half face. It's the face that you give after you ask or start a question in a bogus, insulting way. And then you get an answer that you really didn't want to get, but the truth is being presented to you in the way that Kelsey Mitchell does. And so you just kind of look because you're mid smile because you didn't expect. I don't know how you didn't expect, but you look like you didn't expect.
What makes this clip so delicious is Chiney's facial expression. It's that half smile, half grimace look that happens when you ask a loaded question, expecting one answer, but get hit with some uncomfortable truth instead. You can literally see the moment her face freezes when Mitchell mentions the C word. That's Caitlin for those keeping score. Let's dissect how this whole exchange went down.
But at the same time, I feel like it's just lit. Like women's basketball, the game, how far it's come, the excitement, the attention. Maybe I'll start with you, Kels, because Lord Jesus, your team and their fans,
Jesus,
they be getting up in everybody's business.
Chiney starts by saying, at the same time, I feel like it's just lit. Like women's basketball, the game, how far it's come, the excitement, the attention, seems innocent enough, right? Just talking about the growth of the WNBA. But then comes the revealing part.
Lord Jesus, your team and their fans,
Jesus,
they be getting up in everybody's business.
Maybe I'll start with you, Kels, because Lord Jesus, your team and their fans, Jesus, they be getting up in everybody's business. Hold up, did you catch that? Before even asking an actual question, Chiney takes a completely unnecessary shot at the Indiana Fever and their fan base. Lord Jesus, your team and their fans, they be getting up in everybody's business. This isn't some harmless banter. This is a deliberate attempt to paint the Fever and their fans as problematic. It's pushing the same tired narrative that there's something wrong with the enthusiasm and passion Fever fans bring to the game. Heaven forbid people actually get excited about women's basketball, right? What's particularly interesting is that Chiney's dig wasn't just aimed at the fans. She specifically mentioned your team and their fans. She's taking a swipe at the entire organization, players included. Not exactly the kind of women supporting women energy the WNBA claims to promote.
Starting with you, Kels, and then going to B and Neka. How have you guys experienced? Is there like a moment that you think of when it comes to the explosion of the game and how it has changed the game?
Oh man, I think I've seen both sides of it. For one, like being on a team with like Caitlin and knowing that some of the stuff and the wave that she created for like it's, where the game is and what she's been a part of. Like
after this setup, Chiney finally gets to her actual question. How have you guys experienced? Is there like a moment that you've think of when it comes to the explosion of the game and how it has changed the game? Now, if you've been following the WNBA media narrative, it's pretty clear what kind of answer Chiney was fishing for. Something generic about the collective growth of the league. Something about how it's been a group effort with lots of stars contributing. Anything that doesn't specifically credit the rookie phenom who's selling out arenas and breaking viewership records. But Kelsey Mitchell, being the straight shooter she is, doesn't take the bait. Oh man, and I think I've seen both sides of it. Mitchell begins. For one, like being on a team with like Caitlin Clark and knowing that some of the stuff and the wave that she created for like, as you know, where the game is and what she's been a part of.
For like, as you know, where the game is and what she's been a part of, like as far as this process, I've seen so much of it. And so I think for me lately is the shift in moments in Indiana period, as far as like the arena, where we started. And B was my vet, kind of, right? Kind of.
We up there, sis. We up there.
She was a Fever girl first. And so she also saw, and you know, she's a vet too. They've seen what Indiana was. And I think now where it's at now, the big moment is seeing the shift and being a part of it from a standpoint that I know where Indiana was. And so to see the cultivation of it, you just grow to appreciate the process and, you know, the growth in which the game is going.
And that's when we get to witness the magical facial transformation of Chiney Ogwumike. Her smile freezes, her eyes narrow ever so slightly, and her entire face just stops. It's the look of someone who just heard exactly what they didn't want to hear. What's even more telling is what happens next. Mitchell pauses briefly, clearly picking up on the sudden change in energy. There's no encouraging nod, no em of agreement, just silent disapproval radiating from Chiney. But Mitchell, to her immense credit, pushes through. Like, as far as this process, I've seen so much of it. And so I think for me lately was the shift in moments in Indiana period, as far as like the arena, where we started. Mitchell continues by acknowledging how far the Fever franchise has come, mentioning her veteran teammate, Erica Wheeler, who has also witnessed the transformation of the team. She was a Fever girl first, and so she also saw, and you know she's a vet too. They've seen what Indiana was, and I think now where it's at now. Mitchell wraps up her answer by expressing appreciation for the growth. The big moment is seeing the shift and being a part of it from a standpoint that I know where Indiana was. And so to see the cultivation of it, you just grow to appreciate the process, and you know the growth in which the game is going. Throughout Mitchell's entire response, Chiney's face remains notably stiff, with none of the animated reactions or encouraging nods she displayed during other segments of the podcast. It's body language 101.9. She didn't like what she was hearing. What makes this exchange so significant is that it perfectly captures the ongoing tension within WNBA circles about acknowledging Caitlin Clark's impact on the league's newfound popularity. The facts are clear. Ticket sales are up dramatically, TV ratings have skyrocketed, merchandise is flying off shelves, and social media engagement has exploded. Before Clark's arrival, the WNBA averaged around 6,000 fans per game. Now Fever games are selling out 20,000 seat arenas, and their road games have become the hottest tickets in every WNBA city. CBS reported that the Fever's first preseason game against the Dallas Wings drew the highest viewership for any WNBA preseason game in 24 years. Their opening day game against the Connecticut Sun saw a 285% increase in viewership compared to last season's opening weekend. When the Fever played in New York, the Liberty set an all-time attendance record. When they played in Washington, the Mystics set an all-time attendance record. When they played in Atlanta, the Dream set an all-time attendance record. Yet despite these undeniable metrics, there remains a strange reluctance from certain corners of the WNBA ecosystem to acknowledge the primary catalyst for this explosion of interest. This attitude was perfectly demonstrated by that Forbes article published earlier this year that laughably credited Angel Reese and Aja Wilson for leading the WNBA's growth while barely mentioning Clark. What Kelsey Mitchell did in this moment was simply state the obvious truth that everyone outside the bubble can plainly see. And for that, she received a cold, uncomfortable stare rather than the enthusiastic engagement Chiney showed to other guests. This isn't to say that Clark is solely responsible for all positive developments in women's basketball, or that other stars aren't contributing significantly to the league's success. Players like Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, and yes, Angel Reese are all tremendous talents who deserve recognition, but it's absolutely ridiculous to pretend that Clark hasn't been the primary driver of the unprecedented attention the league is currently enjoying. Acknowledging this reality doesn't diminish other players, it's simply being honest about what's happening. What makes Chiney's reaction even more ironic is that she herself is part of the media now. As an ESPN analyst and podcast host, her job should be to objectively report on and discuss the sport. Instead, she seems more interested in controlling the narrative to fit a predetermined storyline, one that apparently can't include giving Clark credit for dramatically increasing the league's popularity. The bizarre part is that this should be a moment of celebration for everyone involved with the WNBA. The league is experiencing levels of attention and financial success that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Ratings are up, attendance is up, sponsorship interest is up, the rising tide is lifting all boats. Players across the league are getting more endorsement opportunities and media attention than ever before. Yet instead of embracing this golden moment, some seem determined to fight against it simply because they don't like who catalyzed it. It's like being angry about winning the lottery because you don't like the number that came up. What's particularly telling about Mitchell's response is that she's been with the Fever since 2018. She's seen the franchise during its lean years, when they were near the bottom of the league in attendance and relevance. Now she's witnessing a complete transformation, sold-out arenas, national media attention, fans recognizing her in public. Of course she's going to acknowledge the primary reason for that shift. Mitchell's perspective is especially valuable because she has nothing to gain from crediting Clark. She's an established veteran star who was putting up 18+ points per game before Clark arrived. She's not some rookie looking for approval or a role player trying to ride coattails. She's simply being honest about what she's witnessed firsthand. The contrast between Mitchell's straightforward assessment and Chiney's visible discomfort speaks volumes about the current state of WNBA discourse. One is concerned with truth, the other with narrative control. This pattern of dismissing or minimizing the Clark effect has become a strange fixation for certain WNBA personalities. Earlier this season, Chiney Carter infamously referred to Clark as just another rookie before their matchup. Clark proceeded to drop 31 points and 8 assists in a Fever win, outscoring Carter 31-9. After the game, Carter refused to acknowledge Clark's performance, instead complaining about officiating. We've also seen numerous attempts to attribute Clark's popularity to factors other than her talent and playing style. Some have suggested it's because of her race, ignoring the fact that previous white WNBA stars like Breanna Stewart and Elena Del Don never generated anything close to Clark's level of mainstream attention. Others have tried to claim it's all about marketing, conveniently overlooking the fact that the WNBA has been trying to market its stars for years with limited success before Clark arrived. The reality that Mitchell acknowledged and Chiney seemed allergic to hearing is simple. Caitlin Clark plays basketball in a way that captures people's imagination. Her logo three-pointers, no-look passes, and extraordinary court vision create highlights that transcend the usual barriers to women's sports viewership. She's breaking scoring records and creating viral moments on a nightly basis. That's why she's popular. That's why people are tuning in. That's why arenas are selling out. What makes Chiney's reaction even more puzzling is that acknowledging Clark's impact doesn't diminish anyone else. The entire league is benefiting from the increased attention. Player salaries will likely rise significantly in the next CBA negotiation because of the revenue growth Clark is helping generate. Media coverage of all WNBA players has increased. Sponsorship opportunities are expanding across the board. This shouldn't be a zero-sum game where praising Clark somehow takes away from other players. Yet that's exactly how some within the WNBA ecosystem seem to view it. The irony is that this gatekeeping mentality is exactly what has held women's sports back for so long. For years, women's basketball advocates have been saying, if only people would give our game a chance, they'd see how amazing it is. Now people are giving it a chance in unprecedented numbers, but because many of them were initially drawn in by Clark, some in the WNBA world seem resentful rather than welcoming. This attitude was perfectly captured in a comment by Sydney Colson of the Las Vegas Aces earlier this season. When asked about the influx of new fans, Colson dismissively referred to them as Caitlin Clark fans rather than WNBA fans, as if their route into enjoying the league somehow made them less legitimate. What Colson and others with similar attitudes fail to understand is that many of these new viewers are indeed becoming genuine WNBA fans. They may have tuned in initially to watch Clark, but they're staying for the overall quality of play and discovering other exciting players in the process. This is exactly how sports fandom has always worked. You might start following a team or league because of one star player, but over time you develop a broader appreciation for the game. Kelsey Mitchell understands this dynamic, which is why she was able to acknowledge Clark's impact while also expressing appreciation for the overall growth and evolution of the Indiana franchise. She recognizes that this isn't an either-or proposition, it's a both-and situation where Clark's star power and the overall quality of WNBA play are working in tandem to elevate the league. What makes Chiney's reaction even more unfortunate is that she's not just any commentator. She's one of the most prominent media voices covering the WNBA. As both an ESPN analyst and a former player, she carries significant influence. When she visibly bristles at the mention of Clark's impact, she's sending a message to viewers and other media members about what narratives are acceptable. This gatekeeping mentality extends beyond just Clark herself to include Fever fans as well, as evidenced by Chiney's opening comment about your team and getting up in everybody's business. There seems to be a resentment toward the enthusiasm and engagement of Indiana's fan base, as if their passion for the game is somehow inappropriate. The reality is that Fever fans are doing exactly what WNBA advocates have been begging sports fans fans to do for years, watching games, buying tickets, purchasing merchandise, and engaging passionately with the product. Yet now that they're doing so in unprecedented numbers, they're being characterized as problematic rather than celebrated. This attitude was further exemplified recently when Sydney Colson of the Aces made disparaging comments about Fever fans, suggesting they weren't real WNBA supporters but merely Caitlin Clark fans. The irony, of course, is that Fever fans are demonstrating their support in the most tangible ways possible, with their time, attention, and money. What's even more absurd about this whole situation is that acknowledging Clark's impact should be the easiest thing in the world for anyone who truly cares about growing women's basketball. It's not a controversial statement, it's supported by every metric available, from television ratings to ticket sales to social media engagement. Yet it's being treated like some kind of taboo topic by certain WNBA insiders, as if mentioning Clark's name in connection with the league's growth is breaking some unwritten rule. It's reminiscent of the famous Harry Potter line about the name that shall not be spoken. Except in this case, the feared entity is a 22-year-old point guard who happens to be really good at basketball. The absurdity reaches new heights when you consider that the WNBA itself is more than happy to use Clark's image and highlight reels in their marketing materials. They're selling number 22 Fever jerseys as fast as they can produce them. They're putting Indiana games in premium television slots. They're featuring her prominently on social media. Yet somehow acknowledging the obvious connection between these marketing decisions and the unprecedented growth in league interest has become controversial in certain circles. What Kelsey Mitchell did in this clip was simply speak the truth from her unique vantage point as someone who has lived through the before and after of Clark's arrival to the Fever. She's witnessed firsthand how one player has transformed not just her team's fortunes but the entire conversation around the league. And for having the audacity to state this obvious reality, she received a cold stare and uncomfortable silence rather than the enthusiastic engagement Chiney showed to other guests with more narrative-friendly perspectives.